Hello guys, Metahumans here. So we finally have natively supported Metahumans for games. And I have got a lot of questions if my tutorial is still relevant or these changes forbids you to customize your Metahumans. And in short, no. You can still customize your characters as before, and these changes are nothing significant that to make whole workflow irrelevant and you can't customize in the same way. So we're gonna go into the more detail about changes in a second, but the changes they have made, at least on the surface, I don't know if in the back end there's some extra stuff that's happening, to make them more efficient in the games, but in general, the texture changes, the material changes, the LOD changes that they have made, I have done the same things for Metahumans, whatever I have made them for the games. So these changes, who has ever worked in Metahuman game projects, these changes they have made anyways. There's not much things that actually you need to get rid of to cut down drastically in the size and get really good performance. So we're gonna dive into it in a second. So I'm gonna go over the changes so you know how to adjust your Metahumans, or if you're making a new Metahuman, what to be aware if you, for example, want your Metahuman for the games, or if you want for cinematics, then no changes there. And actually with the if you look at both sides, now you can make a hybrid version. You can take actually some of the things from the cinematic and some things from the game and make something in between if your target platform allows you to do it. So yeah, let's jump into it and let's take a look at the new changes. So I have already downloaded the Metahumans from the bridge. So the way how you can get them now is the same way as before. You just go to My Metahumans, and when you click on a Metahuman that you want to download, we have 4 settings. So cinematic is the old Metahuman that we had before. We have a high, medium, and low. So low are gonna be really for the mobile, and then medium and high is, it depends. I'm pretty sure that for the games you're gonna use mostly medium, and maybe for some cutscenes you can use high or cinematic if you want. Here we have all the models downloaded, so the low, medium, high, and cinematic is right here. So if we go to the low model, we can see, yeah, it looks really like GTA Vice City character. The hair is using a mesh. If we go in the wireframe, we can see that hair is a mesh. All the facial hair is a mesh. It's not using strands or particles or anything like that. Everything is a mesh. So this is the medium one, and I think this looks pretty good. If we go in the wireframe, we can see actually the topology is pretty nice. So we are now getting, I believe these are hard cards. So if you would make a game, this probably would be the character that you would make. Then if you go to the high, there is a slight difference. This looks tiny bit better, but for your game main character that you're mostly gonna look from the back, probably medium just works fine. And again, if you look at the wireframe, here we can see it's already now using the particles. No more hair cards, so this is a mesh, hair cards, and this is like the particles. And if you go here, so this is the cinematic, this is the regular Metahuman. You can tell this is obviously, there is like the shadows, the detail is a bit more, and in different lighting they would look. Medium and high looks very close, I believe. Like this one looks tiny bit better than this one, and this one is tiny bit worse than this one. We can tell that actually cinematic is really, unless you're making some Metahuman movies, you probably don't need it. As I will explain now about the changes, the old workflow still works, and you can make Metahuman as we did in our tutorial, where we are starting with cinematic and you can just cut down later on the detail. So now, if we take a look at the sizes, so I'm gonna open up here, and so this is the high, right? Let's start with cinematic actually. Let's start with cinematic. So this is the cinematic, the one that we know. And if we look at the size, right? So this Metahuman is 1.2 gigs. And we can actually see the big chunk is actually textures. It's like the big weight is actually textures. They're very heavy, and then there's some other materials and all that. But so 1.2 gigs, And if we go to the highest, the new Metahuman that they have made, and we go to the size map, we can see 200 megabytes. Amazing, huge cut. But what I assumed when they announced Metahumans, that there's going to be new topology, that there's going to be something new, that they are game ready. But they actually now, it's the same thing as the highest one, just lower LODs. For example, so if we open up the face, so this is medium face and this is the cinematic face. So we can see right away a triangle, some vertices, we can see a huge cut. And if we switch to the LODs, and I believe it's like LOD3. So yeah, if in the old cinematic, if we go to the LOD3, we can see that it's the same triangles, the same vertices, so it's actually the same mesh. It has the same topology, so all they have done is just really get rid of the bigger, higher LODs, and the same for the high, and it's the same for the low version. It's all, they just have cut out the LODs that are the heaviest ones. But for example, if you're now talking about the mesh, into the mesh cut, why, for example, this mesh can be so way lighter than this one is because LOD 0, it's going to show still here anyways, but LOD 0 has something called blend shapes. So these blend shapes are just so if you're moving your face, they wrinkle the mesh, or they also work in some cases as a corrective thing. For example, if the eye should close, the blend shape helps the eyelids to close fully and all the good stuff. So there are these blend shapes. They are heavy, they are very performance heavy, and they actually exist only for LOD 0. So if you go LOD 1, they still show here because it exists in mesh, but if you're gonna move the sliders, they actually don't do anything for other LODs besides LOD 0. So cutting out that completely from the mesh already reduces the size a lot. So we can see, obviously, since this is like LOD 3, obviously we don't have any blend shapes. So getting rid of the blend shapes cuts down the weight of the mesh a lot, and it also gives huge performance boost because again, it doesn't need to have these calculations of you're moving the face, your mesh goes, and there's like this huge data of blend shapes because there's like over 100 blend shapes, I believe, in the original mesh. Material wise, there's no difference. They have just made new materials that are super lighter because they have cut down in the textures that they're gonna get into the second. But if you take a look, then for example, this LOD 0 for medium has 6 materials, and if we go to the cinematic one and we switch to that LOD 3, I believe, we go here and we can open up section LOD 3, we can see the same thing, 6 different materials. So again, there's no much of a change in regarding the meshes itself. So as I said, you can use your old mesh, and if you have followed my tutorial and you created LODs, as we did in the step where we took the detail from the LOD 0 and then we applied to the higher LODs, then basically your mesh is already ready. You can just export LODs that you want. Let's say starting from LOD 3, just don't export LOD 1, don't export LOD 2, export LOD 3. I believe it's like 3, 5, 6 or whatever. You can just go by the triangles, and again, you can adjust yourself. This is just some native support that they have made. Another thing that is very, very heavy is bones. If we open up the face LOD and we take a look at LOD 0, and we can be bones all hierarchy, we can see it's a nightmare because there's a lot of these joints that are moving metahuman facial expressions. There are a ton of let's change just the size a bit, let's bring it down. So it's a spider web. So if we go to something like LOD 3, you see the difference? LOD 0, LOD 3. These all extra joints, again, from your game character that you're probably gonna just see from the behind running in forest, you don't need them. So that's, again, something that impacts performance a lot. You know, if we go LOD 5, LOD4. LOD4 is actually still can play. Look at this, only a few bones there. Just really so your character can blink probably and move the mouth for simple talking or stuff like that. Let's open up again the face. We can open up the face material. And then if you look at the face, then we can also see just there's like one normal texture and that's it. Before we used to have wrinkle textures, but again, this all things that they have cut out is relevant really for LOD0. So what you can easily do is really take your mesh, cut out LOD0 that you already have, or you can actually keep it and just apply the new materials because they have the same, I'm pretty sure they have the same UV as before. So that's about really it, and I believe they just have combined some of them. But a lot of details are just baked. Before, they were just separate textures. Now they have just baked them in. I'm probably gonna make a new tutorial just on that substance painter part, so we can just go out, because as I said, mesh-wise, there's no changes. At least I don't see anything. Maybe there is in the back, maybe you have found something that's different, but mesh-wise, I try to like make quickly my own Metahuman. Works perfectly fine, was able to edit the same way as we did in the tutorial. So mesh-wise, nothing. Texture-wise, yes, there's like some texture changes. The same for the body. If we select the body, open up the material. For example, now we have just base color here. We used to have textures for underwear, mask, and all that. Now we just have color correction. Remember, so we have underwear here. No more underwear texture. That's already one texture. That was actually 8K. So 8K texture that, what is this, 43 megabytes? Gone. Then we go here. We had underwear mask. Another, that's already 100 megabytes. That's already gone from just the mask. There's no more mask for underwear. So they are not using any more composite texturing that they did before. So no more here. No more compositing. So all these small things, we get less detail, way bigger cut on the size. And now they have this simplified material who actually has more nodes than old one, but it really has just these adjustments for mobile. There's just more nodes about now what it goes into the mobile. Look at this whole part is just mobile. So really the whole setup is way more easier, less calculations, which again helps with cutting down the size, the complication, and helps with performance. So these are really the things that impact your character. So blend shapes out, huge performance impact. You know, you get immediately performance from that. Less facial bones. Again, it's the same also for the body. There's corrective bones. They're gone in lower LOD, higher LODs. They're gone, so that impacts. And the textures, really just cutting out the textures you don't need. And you don't need 8K textures for your character that again just runs there into far distance. So I hope you found this video useful, and I probably gonna make a small update video soon. I don't know if I'm gonna still make it this year, if not then early next year, about the textures. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, check my Patreon and my YouTube membership, and see you in the next one. Bye.